Last week, British Health Secretary Matt Hancock appeared on Good Morning Britain to tell everyone that actually we have now the coronavirus vaccine. It is being rolled out, and it was rolled out to a lady whose name they don't give, but the second person to receive the vaccine was one William Shakespeare, which is, let's say, fortuitous naming, a naming convention for them to have chosen. And the problem that a lot of people had with the way that this was being presented was Matt Hancock's inexplicable reaction to this on Good Morning Britain. So we'll play this clip and then we'll just talk about it, because this is really strange.
I mean, just simple words there, reacting it. You're quite emotional by that.
Well, it's just, it's been such a tough year for so many people, and there's William Shakespeare putting it so simply for everybody that, we can get on with our lives. And there's still a few months to go. I've still got this worry that we can't blow it now, Piers. We've still got to get the vaccine to millions of people, and so we've got to keep sticking by the rules. But it's just, there's so much work gone into this, and I'm really, really, it makes you proud to be British.
What bizarre attitude. Like, what is so funny, Matt? Has the coronavirus not been enough of a curse for the country to this point? Wasn't it Rishi Sunak who said we've lost 30% of our industry? Like, how has this been anything other than a national catastrophe? I mean, the official statistics say, over 60,000 people have died from it at this point. If that's what the statistics that you're working from, why are you laughing? Why are you unable to suppress a laugh, a chuckle? Why is it that the corner of your mouth keeps going up into a grin? Like you don't care about this, like you don't take this seriously, like you don't think that the destruction of, thousands of businesses is something that requires a little more solemnity when delivering it. I mean, just the irrepressible laughter Matt Hancock has when he's saying, well, yeah, this has been a terrible year for everyone. Well, I guess not for Matt. I mean, Matt seems to have been okay out of it. He seems to not be too bothered by it. But and then you get the bit at the end. It makes him proud to be British. Well, another segment in that Good Morning Britain podcast, just before that, in fact, the hosts of the clip sit there and explain how the vaccine was developed in Germany by Turkish immigrants to Germany. So why does it make him feel proud to be British? We didn't seem to have done much about it. So it's weird how Matt Hancock seems to be trying to appeal to patriotism while laughing in our faces about the idea. It's just really, really odd, and totally made me think, well, this is a man who's simply not trustworthy. Not that I'm saying there's anything about any of this, but what I think is that, well, frankly, I think that the government have committed to a course of action that actually hasn't been justified by the science. And now that they've committed everything to it, they can't really change from this course. And so when Matt Hancock is laughing, saying, well, we could all get back to normal, well, it didn't have to be this way in the first place, did it? But he lost everyone on this from all over the political spectrum, not just myself, but various other people, because it's really unclear who he's actually trying to play to. Is he trying to play to Brexiteers by calling him patriotism? Are they trying to play to the sort of internationalist Europhiles when talking about how the vaccine is the product of a multinational effort? It's really bizarre trying to wind these strains together, and it clearly doesn't work. But The Independent actually gave the most neutral of representations of this. The Independent being an anti-Brexit paper, I guess they're in favour of the international aspect of it. But I mean, they say he appears to cry, because he did. Well, I mean, I think that's too generous, frankly. He didn't appear to cry. You could see how clear his eyes were. His face wasn't flushed. There was no sign of wetness on his face. Why he thought it was a good idea to try and lie to the British public about him having an emotional, weepy meltdown on TV is baffling, especially when he can't control his own laughter. But they gave him a fairly neutral hearing. The Telegraph were quite mean about it, rightfully so. Matt Hancock keeps crying, but where are the tears? I mean, just look at the still that they've got there. He looks like he's laughing. If I was telling you that person's currently crying, you wouldn't believe me, because it's obviously not true just by looking at it. So why is he pretending that he's crying? Why can't he just come up and give just a normal address? Just be like, oh, hello, I'm Health Secretary Matt Hancock. Finally, we've got the vaccine out. This has been such a difficult year. We're so proud that we've been able to do this. You know, we're blah, 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 blah. Thank you very much. But no, instead, oh, ha, 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 ha. What the hell is that? This morning, the Health Secretary was skipping around central London on his daily broadcast round when he stopped by the Good Morning Britain studio to avoid some more of Piers Morgan's questions and generally congratulate himself, say the Telegraph. It's quite mean. But when ITV showed him a clip of 81-year-old William Shakespeare becoming the second Briton to receive the coronavirus vaccine, he did something weird. Not just Hancock weird, giggling with tired delirium at nothing funny, eating a waffle on air, insisting he likes grime either. As the camera cut back to him, he was sort of wiping his eye. Crying? Trying to cry? It's like, good question. Good question indeed. And then we can go over to the Huffington Post, a radically left-wing outlet. Matt Hancock pretends to cry over COVID vaccine, sparking pandemic of cringing. Can confirm. I was indeed one of the victims of Matt Hancock's pandemic of cringe. I suffered from that. I was actively cringing. The way they frame it as well. Hancock's outburst has seen him compared to a malfunctioning android, Mark Zuckerberg, and American Psycho Patrick Bateman. One person remarked, "This is North Korea level weird." I agree. It's really, really bizarre. And it, like, I can understand that if you're in the highest halls of government, you're sequestered away from the public, you've got all this data coming in, that you may become slightly detached. But to just be laughing about having people locked up in their homes, and that was the part that it's been such a terrible year for everyone. he couldn't keep it in. It's such a weird thing. And like I said, this is all sides of the political spectrum. The sort of, the Independent, the Telegraph representing the centre left, centre right, ostensibly, the Huffington Post representing a kind of radical left position, and then the Daily Express, I suppose, representing the far right position. I mean, they have a crusader as their mascot, so, But Hancock accused of pretending to cry on Good Morning Britain. It was like a year 2 drama lesson, says former Brexit Party MEP Alex Phillips. I don't know, he might be emotional, but it just seems weird. Presenter James Whale interjected. I don't think he was crying. No, nobody thinks he was crying. Nobody thinks he was crying. I think, the charitable interpretation, I think it was laughing with relief that the vaccine had arrived. But then Phillips says, well, it just doesn't ring true. It's the wiping with the fists. No one does that in reality. And it's interesting how Matt Hancock, who to me comes across like a total sleazeball, someone I wouldn't trust with anything at all, even if it was something I wanted to get rid of, and frankly, I think is not. He just doesn't play a human being on TV, which is what everyone's complaint about here is. I personally don't particularly trust Matt Hancock. I think he comes from that kind of club of people that the left is always complaining about, and I think their complaints about these people being disconnected and disingenuous are not entirely legitimate. But this was just a video that I really wanted to make because I'm really starting to despise the representatives that the government is sending out to talk to us about all of this. It's the way that they're delivering this. It's the way that they act and the way that this seems to all be a game to them. The fact that you can laugh in our faces and pretend to cry, that for me, that was just the final nail in the coffin. I'm getting very much sick of this. But anyway, folks, if you'd like to see more content from us, you can go to loadseeds.com. We've got a lot of good premium content. So sign up and become a member, and you will see much more from us very soon.